something inside that definitely hit me hard for probably the first few months. Not used to only being around one parent at a time. It was definitely hard for both myself and my younger siblings to.
Yeah, like you said, the complacency and going day to day, you don't really expect much, and all of a sudden something like that happens, and wow, it would shock anybody, catch you off guard. Welcome to the Rain from Within show. I'm Shane, your host. Everyone has a story. Some people are forced to grow up long before they're ready. This show is about sitting down one on one with real people and talking through the moments that shaped who they become from the inside out. Today's guest is Micah. Micah grew up believing he had a normal childhood until his parents divorced and the responsibility hit him early. As the oldest sibling, he stepped into a role most people never choose, often putting his siblings' needs before his own and carrying weight that was not his to carry. Sports gave him structure, but burnout forced hard decisions. Even with college scholarships and a clear path ahead, something still felt missing, leading him to make a decision that would change his life and his future. In this conversation, we're going to talk about forced maturity, sacrifice, walking away from comfort, and what happens when responsibility becomes identity. We're also going to talk about loss, darkness, faith, marriage, turning scars into something truly meaningful. Mike is a beast. I hope you enjoy. Make sure you like the episode, subscribe, make sure you're following, share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and above all else, enjoy the show. Cool, bro. Yeah, so Micah, you're one of the newer strength athletes. We're grateful to have you here. Normally, people are on the team a little bit longer before they come in, but you've been so good about being active and involved with the brand that, and we've talked a little bit about how deployment and such with your military involvement, we had to make sure we got you on the show sooner
Yeah,
than
for sure.
later. So, dude, okay, remind us, how old are you? Are you 24?
No, I'm 25.
25. Okay, so we're the same age. Let's go. Growing up for you, you felt like life was pretty normal for you, but then it stopped feeling normal for you. Can you walk me through what changed and when did you start having to like really grow up?
Yeah, so around middle school age, I honestly can't exactly think of the exact age of when that happened, but I know I was around middle school, maybe a little bit younger. My dad, they were, getting a new house, which he lives in now. Um, and then one day I was just like, "Hey, where's mom at?" And he was like, "Oh crap." He's kind of like, "All right, now we have to tell him like what's going on." So yeah, long story short, my parents, they finally decided that they were going to get separated and divorced, whatever, just because it wasn't working out with them. So that definitely hit me hard, especially being the oldest of three siblings at the time. Um, Later on in life, there were some more. But yeah, so something inside that definitely hit me hard for probably the first few months. Not used to only being around one parent at a time. It was definitely hard for both myself and my younger siblings to kind of bounce back and forth between, seeing my dad and seeing my mom. So,
Yeah, so you're the oldest of, you got two siblings?
right now I'm the oldest of six. Yeah, so it's three boys, three girls.
Holy
But at
crap.
the time, I was the oldest of myself and two younger siblings. Yeah.
Got you. So when your parents got divorced, you mentioned to me before our conversation that you thought it was your fault. Can you talk me through
Yeah.
that a little bit and kind of how heavy that belief was to carry as a kid?
Yeah. So, I mean, anything that goes wrong, especially even nowadays, I'm like, oh, was it my fault that, did I do something wrong or could I have prevented this from happening? So I asked that question. I was like, is it our fault that you guys are not wanting to be together anymore? Because
Mhm.
there have been studies where it's like parents kind of grow apart even through the struggles of raising children together, especially if it's like their first child
Mm.
and on so quickly. Like me and then my brother, which was the second oldest, we're only 10 and a half months apart. So they, obviously we were born really close together. So from the time of, me being born and then him being born, it was such a short period of like, okay, well, now instead of one, we have two kids to raise together. And then
Mm.
my sister was born, a few years later. Um, so yeah, I was like, well, maybe it's just us being raised by them that kind of caused that tension or whatever. But they definitely assured us that it wasn't our fault at all. Which I
Yeah.
mean is a good thing. But like I said, at the time, especially being such a younger kid, I was like, oh, it's totally my fault. What can we do to make them get back together or whatever? So
Yeah.
definitely took a toll on me. Like I said, especially being the oldest.
Absolutely. So you're the oldest sibling. When did it stop feeling like, when did you stop feeling like a kid and you started feeling like the responsible one? Was it like right there when you found out we're getting divorced?
Um, I wouldn't say right at the moment. It was definitely took its time. Like I said, it took me a few months. I still have felt like that weight on my shoulders.
Mm.
Um, but whenever they and established, I guess, like a visitation, it's like, hey, you're going to your mom's, or you're going back to your dad's, whatever else. So whenever we would go to our mom's, I was like, okay, well,
Yeah. So,
let's let me see. Yeah, going back to like I said, differentiating between those two visitations, I was like, okay, well, my dad's working during the day. He has to go to work really early. Same thing with my mom. I was like, so there's not really enough time or another adult to be like, make sure that we're getting ready for school, make sure we're eating breakfast, make sure, we're getting on the correct school bus. Because the first, I'll be honest, the first few times I've definitely gotten on the wrong bus and I'm like, I've never seen any of these people before.
oh, dude, you're like bringing back memories I forgot I had. Dude, I've definitely been there too. Yeah, there's a lot of buses, and sometimes they put them in different spots too. Like when you're getting on the bus, you talking about for school, or
Yep.
yeah, dude, definitely been there.
So getting on the bus, and then I was like, okay.
I don't
Um,
know any of y'all.
yeah, yeah. So since my sister was the youngest, typically for whatever reason, the younger schools go to school earlier and then get out, earlier also. So made sure she got on the bus first, and then my brother and I, since we were still close to the same age, we rode the same bus. So I was like, okay, she's on the bus, she's good. So now we get on the bus, and then same thing, getting off the bus. And then, like I mentioned, sometimes there's not enough food in the house because, like I said, my mom was always working or my dad was always working, and we would just be like, well, what's for dinner or whatever. So I remember one specific time, there was, uh, I can't think of it. I think it's like bird's eye or whatever. So like the vegetables, but
Okay.
like the big family pack, like the stir fry stuff
Mm.
that you can cook on pan or whatever. So there's the big family size thing of that. And yeah, I cooked it and, tried to divvy it up as much as I could. Um, and then I was like thinking to myself, portioning it out. And I was like, no, they're definitely going to want more than whatever. So I try to make sure like they ate first. And then, obviously younger kids, they're like, I want more, I want more. And, like they don't know how to portion their food out and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's two bowls each. And then I got back and there's like, just like the small little vegetables left. I was like, I don't get the good stuff. So, but
Dude, that we got
yeah.
to talk about that. Yeah, so that is extremely admirable. The fact that there are times when you didn't eat, so your siblings could. What did that teach you about sacrifice?
Um, like I said, it was definitely hard because now that I'm obviously 25 and me being younger, I didn't really know the meaning of sacrifice, like giving up stuff that you could use for yourself for others. I mean, that's the same thing. Like we have the same. in the Marine Corps is the higher ranking, the further back you eat. So like all the
Mm,
privates, PFCs, E-first, Lance Corporals, and so on and so forth. So obviously your junior Marines, eat first before you. So that's like one of the sacrifices, and that kind of taught me like selflessness instead of selfishness.
mm, that's good. Yeah, it's extremely admirable. I can't imagine because I wasn't in a similar shoes with that with my, but I am an older brother, and to think of that sacrifice that you were able to make at that time, being so young too, trying to navigate through the divorce and such, and for you to step up and what you're doing today, which we'll get into in a little bit, I just think that really says a lot about you, and it's why you're a leader and part of strength too now. So yeah, man, you're doing that's I love that part of your story. So who was taking care of you during that season, or were you mostly on your own?
Uh, like I said, early on in life, I was definitely myself, taking care of. I mean, obviously my parents took care of us, but like I said, both of them were working so much and
Mm,
whatever. They're kind of, as soon as they got home, or by the time they would get home, they would either just go straight to bed, or we would already be in bed. So it really depends. But um, later on, as we all started to grow up a little bit more, my parents like kind of realized I was an acting parent, I guess. It's like, which obviously, if you're the oldest, that's kind of like expected to you to kind of like take some of the relief off of your parents and
mm,
kind of from that or whatever. But even now, I've been like do it because I had to. I did it because I wanted to, and I felt like I needed to because, like I said, they were working all the time, and then I could see how stressed out they were, especially, in that situation. I was like, okay, well, me being the oldest, I felt like it's my need to kind of take on that responsibility and stuff.
absolutely. So football, you got into football, and that gave you structure. You mentioned to me. So what did sports in general give you during that season, and when other parts of life might have felt a little bit more unstable?
Yeah. So like I said, I got into sports probably about my sixth grade year, give or take. I was like, never really played sports before. Well, when I was like smaller, we played like rec baseball and whatever else. But I was like, baseball's cool and all, but I was
Mm,
like, all my friends are always like, yo, you should play football. We're always playing, tossing the football around. I was like, oh, what the heck? So I tried out, made the team and whatever. And this first few practices, I was like, oh man, dude, I don't know if I could do this. There's a lot of running, and
yeah.
I've never really been put in a situation of like contact sports before, and so like definitely the first few times I got hit, I was like,
Oh
man,
yeah.
dude,
It's a wake
I
up.
don't know if I can do this. Yeah, I remember one good time. We just set up a play, and I just ran straight through the middle. I got smacked pretty
Laid
good,
out.
straight back. I just laid there for like 5 minutes contemplating my life. I
Yep.
was like, dang. But like I said, taking on that responsibility and feeling that whatever, I was like, okay, well, I mean, if I can do that, I can get hit over and over again in
Yeah.
football. So just kept showing up, started lifting weights, working out more. Um, yeah, and definitely a good thing with football is, like I said, that contact sport. So I definitely had some built up anger also, and I'm allowed to hit people. So I was like, why not, right?
Yes. The
So
perfect outlet. I love that. Good man. Yes. So football, I definitely feel that as well when you're first getting into it. I couldn't do it as much because my chest condition. That's my excuses at least.
yeah,
But I was also kind of a pussy. I'm not gonna lie. I played soccer. Soccer's tough too, though. You can lay people
yeah,
out.
soccer's a lot of endurance for sure.
Yes. But I'm very glad you had that outlet of football and you were juggling sports and work and school. When did you realize that you were running on empty?
So like I said, I played football, started playing football in middle school, and then continued on and on. So freshman year, tried out for my high school football. Obviously, me being a freshman, I couldn't play varsity.
Mm.
So I played JV for, I think it was like half of the season or whatever. And I just spoke with the varsity coach. I was like, hey, I really love football. And I think I feel like I'm starting to, learn the actual dynamic of how to play a higher level of football. He's like, all right, well, I mean, if you want, obviously show up for JV practice, and then when varsity practices, we'll do like a little mini tryout or whatever. So did that, showed up, and he was like, I think you're pretty good. So you'll play, you'll still play your JV game. So we play, they call it like 8 quarters. So like you can only play 8 quarters of JV or varsity football on the JV team
Hmm.
before you have to either stay on JV or get moved up to varsity. So there's like a little form that your parents had to sign, just saying like, hey, he's gonna be playing varsity football, whatever. It's kind of like a waiver type thing. So
Yep.
did that, and I felt like I did pretty good. The varsity coaches, whatever. So after JV practice one day, they were like, yeah, I can see, your potential or whatever. So, congratulations, you're now on the varsity team. I was like, dang, that's crazy because it might be a surprise, but I was actually under 180 pounds at one point. So it
Yeah.
was, um, yeah, I was like 160, 170 pounds, give or take, playing varsity football with some dudes that are like 200 plus. And I was like, oh man, let's hope I
Little
can
little
keep
boy.
up with. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Good. So you played football and then eventually you had to walk away. When did you walk away? Because that's a pretty big decision. And kind of how hard was that to let go of something that you loved for a bigger
Yes.
picture?
Um, like I said, in high school, once I got my driver's license, obviously I had uh, a little raggedy car driving around or whatever. I didn't want like rewind. I wanted a new car, but obviously I knew how hard that was or
Mm.
whatever. So I was just driving around whatever my dad had at that time, and I was like, all right, I need to get a job so I can make my own income, so I can save up to buy, my own car and stuff. So as any other high school kid, worked at McDonald's. It is what it
Hey,
is.
nice.
Yeah, so worked there, and actually, I would say probably less than 2 years. Same like mindset that I've always had growing up. Always wanted to learn more and more and more. Put myself volunteering for extra shifts, taking other people's shifts, helping other people when I see they're slowing down or lacking. So my management saw that, and they were like, "Hey, we see your potential, your leadership potential, whatever. So we want you to be like a crew trainer, so you can train all the new guys or whatever." That happened probably within my first year working there, and then that following like 6 to 8 months or whatever, I got promoted again to like a floor supervisor, like shift supervisor or whatever. So I could actually like make the schedule, and put people where they kind of lacked or succeeded or whatever, and
Hmm.
then do all that other stuff. So um, that's probably about my junior year. Going into my senior year that summer, I showed up for practices or whatever, but playing sports and then going to work right after, plus dealing with schoolwork and all that other, I was like, I've got to drop something, man. So
Wow.
I was want to lose my income. So I was like, talked to my coach. I was like, hey, obviously I really love football, but at the same time, I'm 16, 17 years old and I'm already burnt out. Like,
Yeah.
there's only what you can do. So he was like, I completely understand. Obviously my office is always open if you want to come back. And yeah,
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I made a decision to quit track early because I wanted to make more money working at Subway, similar to you with McDonald's. But yeah, dude, that's a tough decision to make, but I mean, looking back in hindsight, you made the best decision you thought you could. You're you're out of fuel. You had to like go with something. So obviously all sports coming to an end, and eventually you had college lined up. You talked about scholarships, you had a plan, but identity shift, you still felt like something was missing. What did you feel like that was?
Yeah, so like I said, as senior year of high school, all these tests and coming in, everyone's like, all right, you need to start preparing for college. I started apply for scholarships, financial aid, all that stuff. So I applied to probably around a dozen schools, whatever, just all over, North Carolina, Florida. Um, I think there was one in Tennessee. I actually applied for to Oregon also, just because like Oregon football. And I was
Yeah.
like, hey, let's see. So I applied for those, got accepted to a bunch of them. Sadly, didn't get accepted to Oregon. It is what it is. Yeah, and then there was one. Actually, there was like two or three that I got applied to, and that had like their own medical school. So like Campbell University in North Carolina, they have their own medical school for osteopathic medicine. That was probably my first choice, just because medical school. And so you have your MD route, which is like your regular medical doctor, and then you have the DO, which is the doctor of osteopathic medicine. So it's a more, I guess, holistic approach to medicine
Okay.
rather than just the regular doctor stuff where they're just like dishing out stuff. So I was really interested in that. Looked more in there, contacted, admissions, toured the campus, all that, toured like the science building, pretty much just to gain a point of view of like what my environment would be like for, obviously the next few years, and then even toward the actual School of Medicine, which was right up the road from the university also. And I was like, yeah, I could definitely see myself, being here and succeeding. So, um, but yeah, with
Gotcha.
that, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
everything's set up, good to go. And just like any other high school, like I mentioned, they always have military recruiters walking around. Oh, hey, are you interested? Have you heard about this about the military? What are your plans? Do you have this, and this set up? I'll be honest, I was definitely one of those. I wouldn't say obnoxious kids, but I'm like kind of like brushing them off. I was like, dude, I don't want to talk to you. I already have
Mm.
college set up. I already know what I want in my life. So I don't feed me that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, one day we were in class taking an exam. Yeah, and at the end of the class, my teacher was like, "Hey, we have a Marine recruiter who just wants to speak with you guys for about 10 or 15 minutes, just to lay it out." And just based on what he said, I, went home that night, looked more into it, messaged him, and we talked for a few minutes. Yeah, and I went to bed that night, and I was thinking all these scenarios in my head. What if this? What if that? Yeah, I have scholarships, but how am I still going to pay for my tuition and
Mm.
all this other stuff? And at that point, now I'm the oldest of six. Um, and I was like, dude, there's no way that my parents are going to be able to afford to pay for a private university,
Mm.
even with my little bit of money that I've saved up or whatever. So I was like, me being who I am, especially how I've grown up in those situations, I was like, I can't put that on their shoulders. So I was like, screw it. I'm gonna just join the military, have them pay for my college.
Yeah. Okay. So that's super admirable that you were willing to look at that. So, how much of joining the Marines was about building your future at the time? So, at the time, like when you're first going into it, joining the Marines about building your future versus protecting your family from the financial pressure? Or would you say it's about like 50-50?
Um, I'd probably say about 60-40, give or take. It's not exactly 50-50 because,
Mm,
yeah, obviously I don't want to burden my family with that financial decision or whatever because even though a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll gladly pay for my kids' college, but behind closed doors, obviously some people are gladly willing to pay for their child's education, but also they have other bills and other, stressors in their life that could
mm,
be like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to figure out or even work more or pick up another shift or anything like that. Whereas me making that own decision, I was like, the military's going to pay for my school, for free. I'm going to, travel the world, all the
yeah.
all the generic military, I could say jumbo mumbo or
Mm.
mumbo jumbo stuff that they, preach out to you. But yeah,
Micah, I want to talk about okay, once you got to the Marines, well, let's just say once you made that decision, you mentioned to me that you were pretty locked in. Like, where do you feel like that certainty came from at such a young age of like, all right, like I'm going all in on this. Like, this is it.
um, I wouldn't say necessarily a certain age, but same thing with college. I was like, I've always been that person. Even like you can ask my parents nowadays, like growing up as a kid, if I saw something that I wanted, I'm like, boom,
You're
100
going
miles an
in.
hour. I'm changing my mind,
Yep.
whatever. I'm gonna get to that objective or whatever. So, growing up, like I said, I wanted to play football. Showed up at practice every day. Even when I think it was like I bruised some ribs when I was a kid. I was like, I still wanted to go to practice or whatever, even though I couldn't like physically participate. Obviously, I
Mm.
still wanted to be there, learn everything or whatever. So that definitely taught me early on um, that no matter what I set my mind to, like I'm gonna accomplish it. So
Love
growing
that.
up, like I said, playing football and then applying to college. Once I got accepted, dove more into my research. Was like, okay, what do I want for my future? I want to be a doctor or just any healthcare professional. So,
Yep.
boom, medical school. So everyone was like, well, if you want to be a doctor or go into medicine, why don't you go into the Navy or like the Army to be like a medic or whatever? And I was like, yes, that's something what I want to do, but I also want a challenge. Like everyone, I'm not dissing on any of that, but I kind of am just because I'm in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
It's all inter service, trash talk. Everyone joins the Army. The Navy is like, it's the Navy. Everyone joins the Navy. It's not hard enough. Like the Marine Corps is the longest boot camp, the hardest boot camp.
Mm.
Like when people ask or can tell that you're, a service member, they're like, "Oh, are you a soldier?" I'm like, "No, I'm a Marine," and they're like, their whole demeanor changes.
Mm.
It's always something about the Marines that are
I
like
love that.
the tip of the spear.
Cool,
I'm
man.
not saying that because I'm a Marine, but
No, yeah.
even
You earned it,
even
man.
as a kid, seeing the commercials and all
Yeah.
this other stuff. Oh yeah, the Marines did this, the Marines did that.
Hmm.
The Marines took over this whole island by themselves, and
That's
so
awesome. I love that. Yeah, you earned that. You saw it. You felt the calling. You made it happen. So I want you to talk to me about 2021, your deployment there. You mentioned that it changed you deeply, and you don't have to go in full details, share as much as you're willing to. How did that experience affect you afterwards? Because you did mention that this was a very dark place that you were put in for about a year after that.
yeah. So joined the Marine Corps in 2019. Went to boot camp. My and what and then like combat training and stuff like that, and then you're following schools. Then you hit the fleet. I hit my first unit in March of 2020. Yeah, March of 2020 ish. So like right around when COVID hit. So that was like a whole big thing. Everything changed with that. You know, training went on, but obviously safety precautions or whatever. So fast forward, for the next few months, and then going into, coming back from the holidays, going into the new year of 2021. They're like, all right, hey, we've got an upcoming deployment, pre-deployment training, all the basic pre-deployment training that you're all going to get. So fast forward to about mid 2021, we're on deployment and everyday stuff. You get your, briefs on like what to do, what not to do, how you're supposed to act, pretty much like you get like your little shift or rotation, depending on where you're at, what you're doing. Yeah, so that's pretty normal. You're pretty much going through the motions after a while. One big thing in the military is like you always hear about it is complacency. So it's like we always say like complacency kills. So if you're in a certain area doing the repetitive things over and over and over again, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna do this at this time for this time. Nothing happened this past 2 weeks, so nothing's gonna happen again, and you pretty much just like drop your guard and stuff. So about mid August of 2021, let me rewind. Yeah, so about mid-August 2021, we get some stuff about like, hey, there's kind of like a heightened situational awareness, whatever. Hey, there's some things happening in the area. Definitely be on the lookout, but obviously still do your everyday tasks, get the refugees to their safety. You're still screening everyone. You're still going through that long process or whatever. And August 26, 2021, at Abbey Gate in the airport, a suicide bomber came in and he had a vest, pretty much self-detonated, and it was like a vest full of explosives, like ball bearings, a bunch of stuff. So that went off, and in the process, killed a bunch of civilians and killed those 13 service members.
No, dude, I'm so sorry that happened. I did a little bit of research about that as well beforehand, and you mentioned that you knew a couple of the 13, so I'm really sorry about that, man.
Oh, man.
It takes a lot of, oh, gosh. Marine Corps, man.
Yeah.
You guys rock. Thank you for your service, by the way. I haven't said that yet.
Yeah, of course.
It's not easy. And yeah, like you said, the complacency and going day to day, you don't really expect much. And all of a sudden something like that happens. And wow, it would shock anybody, catch you off guard. And it just seemed like a normal day. And then, yeah, I can't imagine going through that, man. I'm really sorry that you had to experience that. And I know that led to a very dark season. So I want to get to more positive moments soon here. You were in a very dark place. You don't have to go into it full in depth on like what that was like internally. You can share as much as you want. But I do know that meeting your wife really changed things for you. I want you to talk about Christy if you're willing. And what was the difference about that relationship that grounded you and brought you out of that season?
So yeah, after all that happened, like I said, it's a very dark place. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I kind of like shut out my family members. They didn't really know too much of like what exactly happened or whatever, because going back to ever since when I was a kid, I never really openly or willingly opened, my self expressions, whatever, because I was that older brother who had to take care of his younger siblings. I was like,
Yeah.
that
You're the
kind of
rock.
yeah, protective mindset. So yeah, like I said, dark place. Wasn't really myself. Still showed up to work, did whatever. Still went to the gym, did whatever. I started to go to the gym like a lot more. That's where I started, gaining more of my weight, especially. So going to the gym like I think like twice a day actually, and just lifting like really heavy weights,
Hmm.
trying to just get my mindset, at least or whatever.
Yep.
Um,
So then your wife, when did she come in the picture?
so August, so literally about a year later after that, like August, September timeframe of 2022, we started. It's funny enough because even though I'm 25 years old, I hate to say it, it was very like Gen Z of us. We actually met back over like social media. So like, and we were talking and we were just like getting to know each other. And I was like, what school did you go to? What I went to? We went to the same middle school.
What? But
So
did you ever
yeah,
talk to her? Like, did you ever know her back then?
no, apparently not. But I guess she remembered me.
Okay.
If she was here, yeah, if she was here right now, she would tell you a pretty funny story of how she remembers me. It's
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, but I'll tell it for her. I'm gonna tell it how I remember it.
Sure.
She's gonna probably say it a different way, but apparently, so in middle school, uh, I think it was like towards the end of the school year or whatever. They kind of have like this big festival type thing or
Okay.
whatever else, but they called it what was it?
Well,
They called it
ended.
like dancing in the dark
Oh.
or whatever. So it was like the whole cafeteria was like this big dance room. There was like a video game truck like out in the courtyard and the hallways. They had like laser tag stuff going on or whatever. Oh man. Uh And apparently, I was playing laser tag, with my buddies, and of course, middle school boys they play Call of Duty a few times, and they
Oh
think
yeah.
they pull off every single move
Yeah.
that they have. So apparently, this is what her side of the story is. Apparently, I was like slid behind a wall and like saw these girls, and I like looked at them, did like a little smirk, and like reached over the wall and like shooting the laser gun, and then I was like, "Oh, dude, yeah,
You were him.
I was him."
Yeah.
Well, she's like, "Yeah, tell me that story now." I'm like,
Was
"Oh
she?
my
Did she
god,
fall in love right there?
I don't know. You have to ask her about that."
Dude. Okay, so
But
you
yeah,
got, dude. That I love that. I love that. And so you got reconnected on social media, and then what happened
yeah,
then?
yeah. So she was in college at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I guess they were going out to a party or whatever, and I guess she posted on her like Snapchat story or whatever. And I was like going through people's stories, and I like clicked through and I swiped back at hers, and I was like, "Damn, she looked good." I
Hey.
swiped up. I think I had like the heart eye emojis or something, and I was
Okay.
like, yeah. So I swiped up, and we were talking. Oh man,
You shot your shot.
I'm gonna say it anyways, but yeah. So we were talking for like a day or two, but it wasn't like back to back. So I would like snap her, and she left me on open like for like 3 days out in a row, and me being like whatever, so invested, I guess I would. People are like, don't double text,
Yeah.
but I would double like Snapchat her, and I was like, dang, that's crazy, leave me on open. And she would leave me on open again. And I was like, oh, no, she ain't going to leave me on open. I was like, what did I
No
do?
way. You were delusional.
I was like, looking back and I was like, dang, bro, I was desperate. But
So
it turned out really well. And she finally sent me and got her phone number because texting on Snapchat's just weird.
yeah.
So I got her phone number, tried to FaceTime on her. She was like, I tried FaceTiming her. It like rang twice and like declined. I was like,
She
oh
give her a
my
fake
God,
no
bro.
phone number.
I was like, bro. So she was like texting me and she's like, hey, I can't talk right now. My sister and I are actually going to listen to the new Taylor Swift album. I was like,
Swifty.
that was very specific. So we'll see. And then actually like 20 minutes later, she posted on her story they were actually listening to it. I was like, all right, so it wasn't a lie to not talk to me or whatever. So
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. So are you telling the viewers that, sometimes you gotta be a little consistent with the shooting the shot? Like if you like you said, if you see something you want, you go out and get it. That's you, Micah. That's awesome. And you did that with your wife now. Dude, that's an awesome story. I think a lot of people will remember that from your story, especially because, yeah, man, you got it. Like, obviously, you did it in a respectful manner. It wasn't like you were like bothering her. She clearly just needed to see a little effort. And I think a lot of girls like that. They appreciate that. So
Yeah.
things worked out.
It wasn't, yeah, it's not like I was going back to back like 20 times a day. It was like once or twice, a day. And then, like I said, she finally responded. But yeah, definitely, if you see something that you want, definitely go after it. I mean,
Yeah.
the worst thing is you're going to get turned down or
Yeah.
you're not going to get, accepted for a job or you're going to not get accepted to a school or whatever. So I was like,
Didn't you say one time you're like, closed mouths don't get fed? Didn't you say that in a team meeting?
yeah, yeah. So I never heard that analogy or saying, whatever you want to call it, until I joined the Marine Corps. And one of my staff NCOs, he was like talking about something. And he was like, if you have an issue or a problem or something that needs to happen, or you feel like that we're not doing enough for you, I don't want to curse, but he was like, speak the F up because closed mouths don't get fed. I was like,
It hits.
closed mouths don't get fed. I was like, dang.
It's a
So
good one. I love it.
me, growing up, going up, in the ranks in the military now, I've added that, same to my toolbox. Same thing with like anything else in life. I was like, if you have a problem, speak up, dude. Like nobody's a mind reader, so closed mouths don't get
Exactly.
fed.
That's what we say with strength too. It's like communication's everything. We exactly. We're not mind readers. When people come into coaching or they join the brand, communication's everything. You have to be vocal and you got to take advantage of when you see something you want, you go out and get it. I love that. And so what has marriage changed the way you think about, leadership and responsibility? Because I think it's pretty cool that you're married and you're 25. You're pretty young for having that figured out.
Yeah. There was definitely some skepticism, not for me, but everyone in the military is like, oh, don't get married too young or whatever else, because there are some individuals out there who are, obviously older in the military and they're on like their third marriage or whatever just
Mm-hmm.
because they got married so young or whatever. Obviously, that was a different time, 20 years ago or whatever else, but I think everyone's different. Like you said, I think my wife and I are like going into the relationship, communication is everything because closed mouths don't get fed. If I have an issue, if she has an issue, um, speak up on it, speak about
Mm-hmm.
that issue. If she does something that I don't like, I tell her obviously in a respectable manner. I don't try to be demeaning or whatever. And if I do something, she'll definitely tell me. She's like, "Yo, I don't like how you did that.
It's good.
I don't want to do this." So definitely getting married. It's definitely hard in the military, especially being long distance because she was
Mm.
still in college. I was in the military. You know, we were 3 hours away. So I'm trying to
Wow.
set up like how we would see each other. You know, on weekends, she would drive to Jacksonville if she had like a long weekend or she got out of class early or she didn't have class today, and then vice versa if I had like a long weekend. So it was definitely a lot of back and forth, which definitely helped us a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as leadership, as again, going back to my childhood, as everyone nowadays, even like back then, you know, the women were supposed to do everything and the man was just solely supposed to go to work or whatever. I was like,
Mm.
if you think about it, that's such a stupid idea. It's like, because marriage or any relationship or any part of your life is always like 50-50. Or
Sacrifice
if
for both.
yeah, exactly. Or if you see that your spouse is like kind of dragging behind, you know, you as a individual, be make sure that you're able to kind of like pick up that slack,
Mm.
whatever. There'll be some days, like if I take leave for probably like 2 or 3 weeks to come down here and visit, and she's like working, you know, so I'll just like clean up the house or do whatever else,
Yeah.
or like go bring her lunch one day. It's just like all the small little things that help out a lot.
Those add up.
And if the roles were reversed, you know, if she were staying at home all day and I was working, you know, I wouldn't want to come home, you know, to like a dirty house, or then I would have to do stuff like that. Same
Mm.
thing as like she comes home from working because now she works 2 jobs just because obviously my upcoming deployment, she wants to keep herself busy. And even when I'm not deployed, it's kind of hard on her, especially since obviously we don't live together.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, whenever she's at work, I just do the small things. So whenever she comes home, she's like, okay, I could just, you know, chill out, relax, don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. Let's go, man. So you're 25, you got a long life ahead. But when you think about your future kids, and this is kind of like to close everything up based on everything you've gone through with, because you've talked about scars before, visibles and invisible ones, and how they don't define us. It's what this brand is all about. It's now what happens to us define us is how we respond to what that does. But when we think about your future kids, what lessons from your childhood and military life matter the most to pass on? What do you want your future kids to always remember about you and take to heart?
Discipline. Discipline's the first one. Obviously, being in the military, that's like the first thing they teach you is like discipline
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like that respect aspect or whatever. So, I mean, we call it like customs and courtesies, just like because that doesn't always have to be just military. It's you as a general, you know, human being. Because obviously, you know, like in the Bible, and God says, you know, love thy neighbor. Is like if I see someone walking down the street, or you know, someone walking into a restaurant and they're kind of like all mopey down or whatever, and you open the door or hold them, hey, how are you doing? Or like, hey, I hope you have a good day, or you
Mm.
know, whatever. They may not think about it at the moment, but it's that, you
Those
know,
little moments, they add
those
up.
little moments go into their subconscious, and they're like, huh, I was having a bad day, but someone saw that and told me, hey, I hope you have a good day, or like asked me how I am. And they're like,
Yeah,
that actually like I'm actually seen, you know. So
absolutely.
definitely, you know, whenever whenever I have kids, or excuse me, whenever we have kids, that's definitely the first thing I want to like, or we want to instill in them is definitely have that discipline and like respect, obviously as parents, but respect towards, you know, each other,
Mm.
themselves, and even like other people that are growing up. Because Uh, yeah. And then another big thing is like I said, going on a responsibility. I don't want to make our kids have too much responsibility where they think like, oh, why are my parents making me do everything when they can do stuff?
Hmm.
I want or we want to be able to instill that knowledge into them, but also give them like the reasoning behind it and be like, hey, go clean your room. Well, why should I clean my room? Because hey, if you clean your room, or like simple as I forget his name, but he's like a motivational speaker now. He's a Navy SEAL. I think I don't want to butcher his rank, so I'm not even going to say it, but basically he's speaking at this high school. He's like one simple task, like making your bed in the morning. Making your bed in the morning,
Hmm.
it if you do it so much, it just becomes like a habit, right?
Right.
So if you make your bed first thing in the morning, and when you come home from a long day and you look into your room and you see a nice made bed, you're like, oh wow, I did that, versus rushing out of the bed, throwing your clothes everywhere, coming to a like a dirty room or a dirty house. Now you have to clean it up and then do this, do that. Whereas like just these little small adjustments and like the reasoning behind why things should be done as definitely like those main concepts.
I love that. It's these small habits of the discipline that add up and they lead you to Jocko Willing, for example, he says discipline is freedom. The more disciplined you can become in these small habits like making your bed, absolutely, brother. Let's go. Cool, man. Where can they find you on socials?
Oh yeah, so TikTok is just my name, Micah Dominic, and then I have two Instagrams, but I'll just put my first one as like my gym page because right now I'm doing the 75 hard, so that's another discipline thing and mental thing that I've got going on. But it's pretty boy underscore lifts one.
Pretty boy lifts. Let's
Yeah,
go. I love it,
yeah,
bro.
that was a nickname that my dad gave me when I was a
Pretty
kid
boy.
because no matter like where I went, I always had to make sure like my hair looked good,
Yeah.
my face was all looked good. I couldn't have dirty clothes. Um, and that was another thing going back to my childhood is even though I wanted everything, I would only ask for so little or whatever.
Mm.
But growing up, I would eventually have like a new pair of shoes for each day of the week. So I was like, I couldn't wear the same outfit twice in a week. I always had to make sure my
Dang.
hair was good. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely showing that like personal image because if you can't feel good about yourself, then others aren't gonna like look at you and be like, he doesn't know what he's doing with his life. So if you like show up clean and presentable and
Yeah.
like with a positive attitude, that kind of like reflects on everyone else. But obviously, there's a certain limitation to that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed that on the head. It's a compliment to be called a pretty boy for sure because it shows that you
yeah,
actually take care of yourself. So, yeah, I love it, brother. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure you like the episode, subscribe, check out Micah on his socials as well. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's go.